Welcome to the Sensory Empower podcast. I'm Bethany, your host. I'm a holistic occupational therapist with over a decade of experience in supporting individuals helping to transform their world through sensory empowerment. This podcast is your guide to the transformative world of sensory storytelling, holistic tools, and empowerment strategies. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sensory Empower podcast. I am so excited to have a wonderful dear friend, Allison Hunt, here with me, who's been using the Safe and Sound protocol, which I am loving. She was the first person to administer, so I could use the Safe and Sound protocol. So I'm very excited for this conversation. So, Allison, I just want to welcome you, and can you share with the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I am so excited to be here with you as well. We have woven in so many ways and not yet a podcast, so I'm so glad this is where we're at now. Hi everyone. I am Allison Hunt. I am a love and dating coach and also an occupational therapist, kind of weaving different things. But I've been using the Safe and Sound protocol for almost 6 years now, which in some ways was almost like before it was out. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it and talk more about it. So I'm still as passionate, if not more.
That's incredible. I would love to just hear how you first got started using the Safe and Sound protocol, because you did have some really amazing and very incredible opportunities kind of right at the start. So I'd love to just kind of hear the behind the scenes.
Yeah, so my mom, Doreen, was one of the first occupational therapists to get her hands on the Safe and Sound protocol. And I basically just heard her raving about how it was changing her practice and the humans that she was serving. And of course, she was really excited knowing that I was also going into this career and interested in a lot of nervous system and stuff similar to her. And so I remember her wanting to put it on a kid that I was babysitting at the time to be like, you have to see what happens, just from 5 hours of music. And then I remember the first time I did it as well, right? Because being a child of a therapist, they're always trying their methods on us as well. And I have such a core memory from my first time doing it of I, really enjoyed going to group activities, but I had such of that anticipatory anxiety, I think people call it. And so I was going to this new acro yoga jam that I was really wanting to do, and I was going by myself. And in the past, that sort of thing would have given me so much anxiety that I almost either would just be like, okay, no, I'll create an idea of why I'm not going to go today. Or just push through it, but it was so horribly uncomfortable. And I remember I had just finished the 5th hour of the SSP, and I had signed up for this brand new group acro jam, was going by myself, and I went, and then afterwards I was like, oh, I wasn't anxious. That was weird.
It's awesome. Oh, incredible. And vivid, those vivid memories. I remember I was finishing up my 4th session, and I remember I was living in a yurt at the time, and I looked up, and there's these 3, hawks floating around, and in a yurt has that beautiful dome window. So you're looking up, there's all these trees, there's these beautiful birds circling above me, and I was just I am so calm and also so in tuned with what is happening in this beautiful present moment, just this deep ease in my whole system. And that is I just love your beautiful reflection of and then that moment, and I'm hearing this feedback from clients that I'm supporting now, certified in the SSP as a provider, being able to facilitate this. And it is just so incredible. I get goosebumps just thinking about those aha moments of when things shifted. Deep embodiment, and those that one moment of being able to go back to the place that was really overstimulating, and having that deep reflection of gosh, that was really easy. Whoa, what happened and the testament to the power of the safe and sound and how subtle. And then it like kind of is like, oh, no. Now it's like a real big reflection of the powerful work to help shift.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful share. And I think just like throughout this whole conversation, just like the delight of how we can use safe and sound in kind of combination with different techniques, and how like as OTs, our therapeutic use of self, how we facilitate, how we're connecting with our clients, being able to have those nervous system education moments, how we can tap into using vagal toning tools, but that like kind of breath work and somatic release techniques. I learned a lot of powerful techniques from you and have dove really deep into learning even more powerful techniques. So I would love to maybe just hear a little bit about like how you kind of integrate some of those practices, somatic release or breath work, and just kind of how those like complement use of SSP when you're supporting clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of my work that I do in my business is around supporting women specifically to feel safer in their bodies and specifically safer in their sensational experience. And I know that's kind of similar to things you're doing, and my lens is a lot more about like emotions and what I call the felt sense in the body. And so in my example, even just there, it's like my anxiety at one point was so uncomfortable for me to feel. I either would avoid feeling it or push through it in a certain way, other things that would also happen, panic attacks in the past, those sorts of things that I'm sure people can relate to. And so really when I'm working with women and supporting them in their relationships and dating is really building their capacity to be with themselves in the present. And so a lot of this comes down to being able to feel what we're feeling in a way that feels safe, right? And so I feel like the SSP so weaves perfectly into my work because when a client comes to me first, a lot of the work we are doing is around emotional safety and really building in, how can we respond when something comes up in us in a way that's efficient and allows the experience to be there without needing to go deeper into it, or building those tools so that that person can feel more grounded while still having certain things bubble up in their experience, because as we know, we can't keep it all away forever even if we try. And so I tend to really give my clients some tools, some somatic tools actually first, before I give them access to the SSP. So that when, say they're doing the SSP and something comes up, they can have those tools and be practicing them during that as well. And so it's kind of like safety coming in over here and safety coming in over here to kind of keep allowing this garden really to like keep growing and expanding and having more resilience in it.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love those metaphors. I use them very frequently in my own life. So I love when I get to hear other people talk about their beautiful passions of business and the metaphors that come to them of kind of how we're supporting and how we're able to like cultivate this clear and safe path. I just loved how you shared that, like building in the safety of our body and that embodiment, that connection to felt sense awareness, and then having this beautiful nervous system reset tool. I have very much noticed and observed that in the clients that I support, to tap into just this deep reflection first of where are we at, what situations and what experiences do cause our system to move into that heightened state. Sympathetic is a very common state, especially when I'm kind of reading through and we're maybe doing some of those like initial preps for starting SSP. It's really lovely to see nervous system baseline through that initial SSP intake with our clients. Like it's so helpful to know because the questions are so clear and really geared towards, as the practitioner, being able to understand, are we moving? And what I've seen a lot is a lot of shift to sympathetic system responses. So we're just heightened, we're charged, we're ready, heart is racing, and just those interoceptive cues that our body is telling us that the situation is overwhelming, environments are overwhelming, things are too large or too loud, we're just charged in general. And that kind of gathering that baseline and having some of those assessments is also like so powerful to see, like really powerful shift with like insomnia with a recent client, some powerful shifts of sensory processing and being less reactive, less sensitive to the world around, better auditory processing reported, just in general, and supporting some pediatric clients as well, of just seeing those shifts with the ability to maintain more of that green zone regulated state throughout the day, even when little brother is throwing a fit because he's 2.5 years old. And that loud noise used to set off the client that I was supporting. And they're like, oh, that is like, this is the program at work. Like in those, like we just chatted earlier, like those, like, oh, here it is. Like, this is the trickle down effect of like just having the nervous system in this engaged state, this social engaged state. And it's so beautiful to just like share and celebrate our clients, and just to be in such awe of like how subtle. I think it's just like, it's so subtle, but then you really step back and you see how much of a pivot, and how it allows, I think, so much freedom to return back to relationships and back to the social activities and back to different settings that might have been a place that you haven't been to in a while, because it did cause and bring up a lot in your sensory system, which can make you hesitant if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, and so much that I see with the SSP is like, we still might have those moments where our body goes into the fight or flight, or we have a response, but that time that it takes to come back to feeling connected, to feeling more grounded, to feeling more at ease is lessening. And that, is so empowering, because it's like, you know what, I can go out into this environment and do this hard thing, and then I'm going to come back to that homeostasis. And it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm going to go out and get trapped in this, and I'm going to have to go home and recover for so long, and it makes sense that someone wouldn't want to go out to a loud event, for example, if that's the experience. It's like, there's not much benefit in that.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's so nourishing, and it does that recoup period. Thank you for highlighting that, because I think that's a crucial piece too, that yes, we are going to still have moments and there are going to be situations, but it just kind of lessens this intensity, and it allows for our nervous system to recover and return much, much faster and with more ease. I think just like ease is like my word of the year, Allison, like bringing in ease, like slowing down and just like waking up just a little bit earlier in the morning. So I've got even more time, and I'm a morning bird, so my morning routine is like lovely and super nourishing for my sensory system, like lifting weights and doing yoga and like lighting a candle. I have my candle here right now with me because I love the smell and the light, and just nourishing the sensory and nervous system before starting the day, to where I'm already primed and ready for whatever may come at me. And I think that's like the beautiful thing that you've shared, and I know that I support clients with too, is that education piece to empower, to find those tools, and using SSP as this power tool that can kind of connect and correlate and just, support with all of these other very powerful tools. And, when we think about kind of like breath work and like empowering clients to achieve that like greater sense of calm and ease, how can kind of the SSP in combination, we kind of touched on that a little bit, are there other techniques that you've seen really are supportive and kind of nourish and tied in with SSP?
Yeah, so I tend to still do most in my coaching practice, I tend to still do most of my SSP separate. I will occasionally, side tangent, have like a homework practice where someone is really thinking about the type of relationship they're wanting, and they'll listen to the SSP while doing that to kind of bring in this extra lightness, this extra like safety of like, you know what, maybe I can have this. Maybe the relationship can feel like that, and start bringing more safety as they're starting to dream and feel into this next stage of a relationship they're looking for. But other than that, like in my actual sessions when I'm doing breath work, or I'm doing more so, I do a lot of like pendulation. That's a word, like in the somatics of like feeling into something that feels good and or resourcing or neutral, and then also taking some moments to feel into something that feels more charged, feels more heavy or more sharp or uncomfortable. And I think that as my client is going through the SSP, and then they come to a session where they've already now have this deeper layer of safety in their nervous system, that capacity to feel more into that thing that maybe feels really heavy or go towards it, they've got that grounding in themselves. And so that's what I'm wanting for people, right? We don't want people to become dependent on things. We want them to become more grounded in their own system. And I feel like that's one thing I love about the SSP is it's, yes, we are there as a provider, maybe a co-regulator, and we're setting up the person for safety within their own situation and their, their environment. But the SSP is really focused on that person's specific nervous system, getting more of this vagal toning so that they're able to go into these places that maybe they've been really resisting for a while, so that they can move through that and they can let that move through them. And a lot of times when we have the capacity, to be with something that's really frustrating, and we finally can get there without it feeling too scary of like, well, if I go towards this thing that's really frustrating, I might never get out of it. It's like they're really building this self-trust within the safety. And I think that is like such a big gift of like, wow, I can like know that I can handle this. And if someone walks away feeling more confident in their ability to just be with life, like that's one of the most beautiful things to me working with someone.
Oh. Those like the happy feelings, because it's this just such a beautiful share. I'm like of just it's this deep empowerment to know, right? Ease comes into the body. I can take charge. I can handle things. I am able to step forward into uncomfortable and unknown with confidence. I think it builds, I know working with you built deep confidence in times where I was going through so much in my life. Lots of nervous system overwhelm, lots of dysregulation, lots of unknowns, lots of uncertainties. And my ability to have ease within my body then allowed even more confidence to step forth and make big decisions and take charge and pursue things that maybe I wouldn't have, thought about. So I really, I just, I love what you do. I love what you just shared. And I would love, for you to maybe kind of provide an example from another client, maybe of just like a story or a little share of just a client journey win. I know we talked about kind of this confidence piece, but like empowered and embodied and all these like beautiful like confidence words. If you have a story to share with everyone.
So I have a unique example. I was thinking about, what examples do I have that maybe someone in your audience would relate to? And I think this example is nice because it's also really real, where it's like the client didn't necessarily get rid of their sensitivity to something. So in this situation, my client, who is a dating client, she's dating, she's looking for partnership. And of course, within that is sensory things. And specifically, that's not a main focus that I work on with my clients, but within nervous system comes changes in the sensory world as we're talking about. And so this particular client has some sensitivities to specific foods. And, you know, there's a lot of foods that she maybe doesn't want to eat and or be around or touch, etc. And so in some ways that can come up on a date when you're going to a meal with someone, and it's an extra vulnerable situation because it's a person you haven't met before, right? And so maybe your friends and family know that you don't tolerate these foods, you don't eat them. But in this setting, you know, it's a little bit more vulnerable where it's someone new and you don't really know how they're going to respond to you maybe sharing about something if it comes up. And so this client just recently told me the story of how she went on this date. You know, they were going to go outside and not have food, but it was raining, you know, Pacific Northwest vibes. And so they went to have a meal. And the big breakthrough here was that the person she was on a date with ate something that was one of the foods that she really does not like and does not eat herself. And she was able to stay grounded in herself and calm in herself to tell that person, actually in a joking way, it sounds like. So she was able to almost access that playfulness, which we know comes from a place of being regulated. So to me, that was such a huge win because it's already a date where the stakes, you know, it's extra vulnerable. It's a new person. To me, it shows that she's found this acceptance of like, okay, you know, this is something that's hard for me, you know, that I don't like. And so she's gone to this point where she can accept that that's how it is right now for her. And she's able to play with it with the person on the date and create, you know, in this moment, it sounded like a playfulness out of it. And it just showed me in that moment how much she had grown her capacity to, first of all, be with this food in this sensory moment. And second of all, to be communicating with someone new who's, you know, it's vulnerable already in that connection. And then to also make like a play out of it, I was like, wow, that is showing me so much capacity in your nervous system. And this is incredible.
Oh, wow. Yes, and like such deep vulnerability. And I love the topic of play. Play has come up as a wonderful topic in some recent interviews. And I'm like, I love that play is something that we get to talk about because I bring it into my life every day. And you have to be in a state of beautiful regulation to be able to bring this in. And play can facilitate. And I just love that wonderful win, just, you know, the ability to bring in such ease in conversation, regulated state to have and express like very clear expression, with such ease, with no timidness, like just deep confidence to be able to well that experience happen. So thank you for sharing that. Oh, that's so powerful.
On that note of play as well, when I was thinking about coming to this podcast, I think of you and hula hooping. Like that is just always linked. And I was like, oh, dang it, I don't have my hula hoop. I was going to come up here and be like, let's go, girl.
Oh my goodness. I use that. That is one of my morning routines as well. I love that you brought that up so I can share that with all the listeners. Yes, I have it's like a weighted one. So I get even more heavy work. And I love hula hooping. And I think I even like shared with you a video where I was like, I'm going to challenge my body and my motor planet. I'm going to do it. And I'm getting like extreme heavy work of balancing on a Bosu ball, which is like that little half chopped ball for those that are listening. Like a exercise ball chopped in half. So it has a flat base and it's like a bubble on top. And I'm balancing on top and I'm trying to figure out how to do a spin while hooping, while balancing and spinning around in a circle on this very dynamic base that's very much moving. And I got it. And it was this like, all right, brain, you really wanted to come up with that cool challenge, but having the time of my life. So, thank you for bringing up one of my cherished occupations.
Yes, I love that image in my head. It like makes me smile. I love it.
I'll have to go do some hooping after this then. It's such joy. Oh, it's such joy. And I would love to just kind of like wrap up with some like beautiful shares of just like advice you would give. You've been using SSP for quite some time yourself, your mom, just you've seen a lot of community being able to access SSP.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice maybe would you give to someone who is new or considering Safe and Sound protocol, maybe at the start of the journey?
Oh my goodness. All of my friends love the Safe and Sound protocol. Like, I don't know. I'm just surrounded by people that once they try it, there's this big exhale almost. Like the body has this big exhale of like, ah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I just feel so grateful to be able to know about it. And I'm so grateful that it's so accessible as well. It's like 5 hours of music. It depends on who you are and who your provider is of how you'll do that listening yourself. Usually it's around 30 minutes a day, but it really depends on personal nervous system, really, and provider. And yeah, I would just encourage if someone has some interest, there's a website, whatistheSSP.com, that's really easy to digest. That's a really good place to start and learn more about it. And then, yeah, reach out to a provider, Bethany, myself, and yeah, give it a try. It's one of those things that, I guess I probably had my first round of it something like 6 years ago. And since then, I complete it actually about 4 times a year. So I now am, just to remind me, I do it around like the time of the solstice or the equinox. That just reminds me of like, oh, it's been, a quarter. And that feels really nice to just connect, right? The SSP is all about connection. So I'm like, oh, that's another connection to the earth or to nature, to the cycles around me. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that if you find out that it's really supportive for you, you can keep incorporating it into your life. And as we know through life, we have moments and bumps that are sometimes bigger than others. And so knowing after a big bump comes, I can access the SSP again to kind of find back that ease. It's just like I'm just really grateful that I'm able to do that and share it with other people as well.
Oh, what a beautiful summary of just kind of like the length of time, how to access, and Allison, if you've kind of described your client, if those interested, can you share a little bit about how people can find you?
Yes. So you can email me directly at lovecoachalli, ALLI. If you want to chat more about working with me, I'm right now really excited about my Securely You program. And so there's this whole methodology I've been developing that incorporates the Safe and Sound protocol, incorporates a lot of building in clients' own safety systems into their bodies, and also like really building more ease and pleasure into their lives. You can also follow me on Instagram at lovecoachalli and DM me there, or follow me and feel the energy until you want to reach out for more. It's all here.
Oh, and I just deeply appreciated every session we had together. I was kind of in your first cohort with your training program, and I was still using and integrating some of those powerful tools. So highly recommended.
Yeah, that was so special.
Oh, it was so incredible, honey. And just, I think just deep awareness and embodiment within my being in such a time of ease. So it was literally the perfect time in my life to learn some of those power tools, and have just gone on a deep dive into the adventures of even more. And it's been such an honor to have you on the podcast, honey. And reach out to Allison if you're interested in her work. And I thank you all for listening this evening to the Sensory Empower podcast. And until next time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I'll talk to y'all soon.
Alrighty. Thank you for joining me on this sensory adventure through Sensory Empower, the podcast. Remember, Empowerment begins with awakening your senses. Subscribe now and embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Until next time, may your senses guide you towards a life filled with peace, joy, and empowerment. Because true empowerment begins with embracing your senses.